All right, we are back with episode 5, and we have Sandy Hilton here joining us today. So, Sandy, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for taking some time out and coming on the podcast here. You're in Chicago, as am I. Well, I'm in the suburbs of Chicago. You're in Chicago proper.
Right.
So again, thanks for taking your time out. And for our listeners, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself and give a little background on where you've done some training and what landed you ultimately in downtown Chicago.
Oh my goodness, how long do we have? The short version. So I'm Sandy Hilton. I'm a physical therapist. Been one for 30 plus years. And what started? So on a cold summer morning, I was born, and no, I went initially into PT to just get people moving again, and I started in neuro, but I was married to an Army guy, so if you look at my resume or my CV, it looks like I just can't settle down, but it also tracks to a lot of military posts around the world. Ended up in Chicago through fate, and equally through fate met Sarah Haig, who is my business partner here at Entropy, and we were on a board together and just started talking about what we loved and didn't love so much about the healthcare profession and where everything was going. This is like 2012, 2011, and decided that in the midst of a healthcare crisis in this country, it would be a really good idea to start a private practice that didn't take insurance in the heart of Chicago. It just sounded smart. But we got to create something that we really love. And that's why I'm here, is Entropy Physiotherapy with Sarah Haig. And we got to build it from the ground up to reflect what we want it to look like. Is this where I get to do my shameless plug?
Your shameless plug. Go ahead. Yeah, go
ahead. All right. So Entropy, we built it from the beginning, and starting a new practice is a little, there's all these rules of what you're supposed to do and in what order and all of those things. And we read them and then did things. And but we knew what we wanted in the beginning, which was a place big enough to host continuing education courses. Because you're as much as a learning addict as I am, and it's hard to close everything down and go away to meet these really smart people and learn from them. It's much more efficient to bring them to you and let other people help offset the cost and have a great time. So we set up Entropy to be able to do that. It has an education arm for learning and asking good questions in a comfortable environment with good food and good coffee. And
very good food, I will say.
Yeah. Learning should be fun. It should feed your brain and your stomach all at the same time. And so we wanted that. We also wanted a place where we could treat the way we wanted to. And by that, I mean seeing people by what they mean. And as physical therapists, especially as an older physical therapist, much of the treatment decisions were made by organizations or third-party payers, not so much what the person needed. And by going out of networking, we're allowed to see people as they're needed. So it can be like, instead of some insurance companies, they'll give PTs 6 visits in 3 weeks. I can take 6 visits and spread it over 6 months if that's in the best interest for the patient. So it's not about seeing them more, it's about seeing them more appropriately. What else do? We do that. We do, Sarah and I both teach. We both have classes that we travel around the world and teach. Have Passport Will Travel. And just to share our experience and for anyone who wants to listen and try and make predominantly pelvic health issues for anyone more accessible, less scary, and get people the treatment they need sooner. We have online mentoring, and we have an incubator kind of thing where anyone looking to get their feet wet in private practice but doesn't want the brick and mortar expense, there's an option to come start here. It doesn't come with all of those do not compete clauses, because there's more people that need treatment than are getting it. So yeah, it's got a lot of different fronts to it.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because if you look at conventional wisdom, you're kind of doing a lot of the
opposite
do not do list. You're kind of running in the opposite direction, which is kind of interesting, because the herd is going one direction, but we're also building the healthcare system around the herd, or maybe the herd is fitting into the healthcare system, and you're kind of going in the other direction, which I also ascribe to that notion of getting to know people, building relationships, not necessarily just looking at the patient as a number or a chart and just we have to do this, what someone's saying. You get what I mean?
Peace, and that's another thing unique to physical therapy over the years, is that we were only allowed to see the person for what was on the referral from the physician. So if they were referred for their knee and you knew there were hip and foot issues you needed to work with, you had to get separate permission to do that. And some organizations are still set up where that would mean like 2 or 3 different visits to treat. And it's just ridiculous. It's like, no, I'm just going to work on the person and not draw any imaginary lines of where one piece starts and the other piece stops.
We say something similar in our office, which is, when as a chiropractor, people have already, cornered me down as just the spine.
Fine, that's it, just a facet joint.
Yep, this is, and I think, we work on people, not parts.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You work on shoulders. I'm like, well, it's part of the person.
And everything attached to it. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I just, that just came to me one day, and I just started saying it almost as like a quick, witty remark to get back.
I love it. I love it. People, not parts.
Yeah. Feel free to use that,
I'm gonna. That's that like hashtag on Twitter, just waiting to happen.
Oh, hey, Twitter's coming back. I'm telling you, Twitter. you've got a pretty good there. Have a pretty good following on Twitter, and I've dropped Instagram. I'm back on just Twitter right now. Yeah, because
Instagram. See, I don't know. It's personality and personal choice. It's how I come. I don't like loud noises, big crowds, flashy lights, and that pretty much is Instagram. Yeah. And Facebook is just a lot of people and a lot of words. And Twitter, I can have these curated short little conversations and run across people I would never ever have run across.
So true. And then move on with your day.
Right. It's a stream. It doesn't hang around. It's just like going out to the river and looking at that little piece, and then you walk away and it doesn't cling to you.
I'm right there with you. So
biased.
Oh yeah, for sure. So your clinic, you guys specialize in what would you guys say you specialize in your Entropy clinic?
People, not parts. Pain predominantly, but really anyone with a function. It's why we called it Entropy, because that like goes against everything too, right?
So can you explain the meaning of entropy?
It is a law of thermodynamics whereby things kind of fall apart a little bit, and you need to put some energy back into the system to restore function, which I think describes, and Sarah thinks describes the reason people come to therapy in the first place, because things are kind of falling apart a little. And we thought it would be cool if you knew where to go. And then when you get reorganized and that efficiency is back in your system, you also know you don't need to hang out there anymore. So it's just the place to go when you're falling apart, because that's what's happening. And we pull a little energy into the system and get it going again. It's really fun because some people get it like so fast. They know their laws of thermodynamics and they're like, oh, that's really funny. And other people are like, what? How do you spell that? And I credit the high school teachers of the people who got them a little bit more into understanding the physical world around them.
Absolutely. So what made you want to create kind of like an education clinic hybrid? And if it's okay if I ask you this, is it a financially stable model?
It is financially stable. We're fine. I don't think that on the scale that we do it, we could say that we could just, retire and buy multiple Ferraris. But that's fine because we keep the classes at 24 people.
Okay.
And we pay the speakers reasonably and fly them here and put them up in a hotel and feed them. And everyone wins, but that means that everyone wins. So we're not going to win out of proportion to the winning of other people.
Right.
So yes, financially stable, not fancy. And that's, first world problems. Our definition of not fancy is pretty darn awesome in a lot of places. So, and we love it. We did it because we love learning. And it's for Sarah and I to close the clinic and fly to London to sit and talk to Neil O'Connell about how to not waste time reading the evidence and understand how to filter that better would cost a lot more money than bringing him here to put on a class. We could keep the clinic open. We can still see our patients. We can still learn. Again, everyone wins. But we don't own any of the speakers. I mean, Sarah and I speak, but those are all independent speakers. We don't We don't host the chain people.
Yeah, I noticed that you guys have a very unique lineup of speakers, and well-respected researchers and clinicians from all over the world. I had the opportunity to listen to Ben Cormack's course at your place. I think it was like a couple years ago, maybe a year and a half to 2 years ago. I think time's flying by, but
Time's flying by, and he's coming up again soon. So
yeah. So I highly recommend going to that course. It definitely made me think differently about back pain, and coming from the chiropractic industry. That's no.
that's a pretty high compliment,
Yeah,
Ben. Yeah.
it definitely challenged the way that I look at how normal back pain is and how you can convey that message to the patient.
Yeah, one of the things I really love about Ben is that he just makes it, making something simple takes an awful lot of effort.
Yeah.
And he puts in all, you can tell because he makes it look effortless. So it's like when you go, oh, he's going to love this one. Hi, Ben. When you go to like the super swanky places and it just seems seamless and effortless, you can tell how much training and time people have put into doing that. Like the silence of your water just being filled before you even realized it was empty. That's skill. And Ben does that with his class. So yeah, Ben, I just called you swanky.
Oh, well, we'll have to have him on, and then he'll give a rebuttal to that.
Posh. You're posh, yeah. Ben.
There we go. But, one thing that I really like asking also is like a day-to-day operation. Like, what does a normal day look like for Sandy?
Well, I have taken a huge leap in the last 2 months of blocking time off in the morning to go exercise, or like today was just find the floor again because I woke up really stiff. But so I've time blocked off in the morning for me, which is the first time ever in my life I've done that. It feels a little weird. So I get to the clinic around 8:30, 9 o'clock and start seeing patients. I see one person at a time, but they're not all an hour, just for whatever they need. My first patient today is coming for about a half an hour. It's a checkup and a progression of what's going on. I try and leave a little time in between each person so I can write my notes, the bane of my existence. And then people can, take some time leaving and collect their things and go before they feel like they're being rushed out. So I try and leave a little air in between people, for all of us. And then I just see one person at a time, typically at, 5 or 6 people. I'll work weekends when I'm here, and I'll work late or come in early if I need to because I travel and teach a lot. So I think that I keep that flexibility in my schedule so that like next week I'll be gone for 9 days, and no one's really terribly cranky about it because I'll also come in and see them this weekend if they need to be seen before I go, and I'll try and be as flexible as I can.
Very cool. Very cool. I like that. There's, again, even conventional business operations would say, get them in, get them out. Like get people in, get them out. And you're taking your time, you're nurturing, the clients and patients that you're working with. You're not rushing them. I think that's to be cherished. I mean, I'm definitely guilty of like, okay, hey, yep, we'll schedule on your way out. Yeah, we'll see you. And I move on. And so it's refreshing and challenging.
Like the business people would tell me this is not sustainable and not scalable. And okay, it's sustainable. And no, I don't know that you could scale it because then you lose the ease. Mm-hmm. And we don't schedule 6 people, like when you call for your appointment, we don't schedule a bunch of visits at once. Because I think that's how a lot of people end up with these horrendously long waiting lists. And I always tell people it's like if they balk at us being out of network, so they pay us and then submit to their insurance for reimbursement directly to them. It's like, go ahead and make an appointment at wherever is in network. And if you can't get you in right away or don't get a follow-up appointment right away, consider coming here for some in-between treatments. And if they can't get you in for 3 months, goodness, start this week. Maybe you won't even need to go. Yeah. Because you could be better in 3 months.
Yeah. So do you get a lot of pushback on the out-of-network status of your clinic?
Some from both healthcare professionals, and because the worst argument is that we're skimming and only seeing people with money to pay for it.
Okay.
ignoring the people that don't have money. And there's, I have to yes and that. Yes, we are seeing people who can afford to come here, and we take Medicare, and we cannot afford to take Medicaid, which is the government low income policy, because that is not sustainable. We would be getting, I think, $9 for a visit, and I cannot do that.
Right.
So that is true. I will leave that to the people who get paid twice as much as I do for a visit through hospitals and private practices that have negotiated higher payment than people pay us.
Yeah.
So I think there's a need for lots of different formats. And some people flatly, it's like they either go in network and pay less, or don't eat that week. And it's tight for people. So I totally get that. It's not for everyone. Again, I don't think that a cash model is scalable in our society at this time, but it works well if you're able to keep it online and with what you need. But I don't think we could have 15 therapists and 2 receptionists and keep the tone of the clinic.
Yeah, I think that's something I've run into as well, which is like you form the initial relationship, you form this like this reputation in your area, and then you charge, what you feel is, appropriate for that service. Not necessarily you charge what you think you're worth, but you charge what you think will be.
We charge a fraction of what we think we're worth.
I think that's just a testament to your intentions. If your intention were to have a multi-million-dollar clinic,
yeah, I wouldn't do this.
Yeah, you wouldn't do that. But I think that what you're doing is so different. And I think that it's fulfilling, if I can just kind of, put that out there, that some people are motivated by money, and they're motivated by the impact that they might give off, vibes of success and whatever that means to them. But I think that you and I, are also motivated by fulfilling and having a bigger impact on society, not just, the dollars that are going into the bank account. This is something that I like wrestle with all the time, because I want to provide a family, to like move up in society, but I also want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing.
It's hard. It's a constant struggle, really, to that conflict, because I like being able to pay rent. I can't live in Chicago as a single person.
Yeah.
The looking at prices, there's a condo on the way to the clinic. They're refurbishing an old building. They're starting at $1 million. There is no flipping way that I, as a single person, even with a doctor of physical therapy degree and owning my own clinic, can afford $1 million condo right by my clinic. And it's not fancy. It's on some back street, block from the train. It's like, it's expensive. So you have to make enough money to live and be secure, because if you're not secure, you can't provide good care. You're all agitated and anxious about whether or not you can pay rent or the mortgage, or can the kid go to sports camp or whatever. You're not going to be able to really be there for your patients. So, yeah.
Well, the other thing that I vowed to never do, which is our office is only in network with one insurer. And I vowed to never be like, oh, yes, new patient from this insurance policy. And I'm like kind of seeing the dollar signs, because I witnessed that in my own, my own training as I was working in other offices, and like the crap that people would say just based on how much money they were getting per visit. And you could totally see that the quality of care, the attention to the patient was shifted towards whose insurance policy paid more. And I thought that, this is not okay. This is like,
kind of makes my skin crawl. I know it happens, and it's just like, I can't do that.
I witnessed it, and it was something where I got that real bad taste in my mouth, and I vowed, like right there on the spot, that like I would never do that. I would always treat people equally, because I feel that's what I'm called to do. I'm not called to be a judge, jury, and executioner. I'm not here to just decide, okay, this person gets to be treated with my highest of quality of care, and this person gets my B game.
No, I can't work that way.
Me neither.
It just doesn't. I don't know how that happens. And I'm sure there's some sort of implicit bias where I do that and I'm not aware of it, but I try really hard to be aware and not do that. Because there's always people that get on your skin. There's people whose skin I get under.
For sure, for sure. So
Which is why I love, another like reason 427, I love working with Sarah, because I can say something to someone and tell it's just bouncing off them. Like, this is not going to work. And have Sarah talk to them, and it's like angels singing and the waters have parted, and they're like, this makes the most sense anyone has ever said. And you just walk away going, you are not it for everyone.
that's right. That's right. Well, it's all like my wife and I, we have 4 kids, and I could say the same thing over and over again to them. And I also coach soccer, but when our kids go to soccer practice, if their coach says something to them, it like sticks because they have that authority, you know, and I might be like, I just asked you for 3 straight weeks, you know, like do it this way. And like, they could not be bothered. Yeah. And then, you know, coach tells them to do it one way and they like nail it, you know, so we celebrate that. I absolutely don't fault them for doing that. We celebrate when they've learned something new. But it's no different. It's sometimes just a different way of saying the same thing.
It's so hard on the ego and yet hilarious. So
it is. I have, since becoming a parent, my ego has definitely
that'll do it.
yes, been, and I would say for a good reason. You know, like I definitely feel having kids has challenged my patience, challenged my ego, and for all the right reasons. But it's very interesting stuff, Sandy. So where did you learn some, you know, practical business ideas like this, or was it just you looked at the current standard of the industry and said, I'm going to go the other way? Like, did you read books, listen to, you know, YouTube videos of Tony Robbins? Like, what was it that
so I had a clinic when I opened it in 1995 in Dixboro, right outside of Ann Arbor. And my ex was pretty good. He's a finance and accounting degree, even though he's Army. And my dad owned his own company and picked up some stuff from my dad along the way, and talked to my finance and accounting spouse as I was opening things up. And he was the one really that pushed me. He's like, it doesn't make any sense for you to work for someone else. You know, and pushed me to get a receptionist because it was just me. It was like, so, you know, he was doing the math in the background and was like, you can do this. And then I joined a women in business group in Ann Arbor and learned a lot of things like, I can do this. I can do a lot of the stuff. It's not what I love. And there's people who love that, who can do it in like a third of the time that it takes me to do it. So it makes more sense for me to pay them to do it, even though I could, because that's their skill and that leaves me free to do my skill. And that was probably the biggest, because my ego was like, I will do all the things. And then you're not working out and you're not sleeping and you're cranky. So that helped. The private practice section of the APTA has a book on what to do when you open a new practice. It's kind of like what to do when you're getting married. You know, you can look at that and see, and it has timelines and all this. You may or may not follow what they say. I was thinking what you said about Tony Robbins. People who yell really loud, even enthusiastically and with nice things, are like the other side of a magnet to me. So that would be, I have no idea what that man says. He yells it at people and I can't hear it. so it's like, nope, other way. You just kind of find your own path. Sarah and I devised what Entropy was going to look like at this train station halfway up to Lake Como in Milan, or outside of Milan. We sat down, she got her notebook out, and we said, okay, this is it. We're going to plan it and either do it or don't do it. And we sat there waiting for the train to come back and figured out what we were going to do. So some of it gets to be organic, and then you get your personality mixed into it, and you go to a place where you love being. And we knew we wanted to work with people with pain, especially pelvic pain issues. And that's a population that's already agitated and has been through a lot. And the part of their body that hurts is part of a body that contracts if you feel threatened. So it's really important to have the environment not be threatening, to be a little different, to be a little sedative, but not boring. So we did all that on purpose, knowing the population we wanted to work with, and that we wanted to be comfortable and have fun here too.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, I live on Twitter, so I am at Sandy Hilton PT on Twitter. Sarah is at Sarah Haig PT on Twitter. We are so creative with our hashtags or with our names. It's like, who are you? I don't know. It's my name.
Direct, you know?
And then here at Entropy Physiotherapy, you can find us online at entropy.physio, because we went to that cool, hey, it's our name. So it's ENTROPY .physio. There's no .com. And I have to do that on the phone a lot with people because it's new. And then, we host courses. Please go online and check out the continuing ed section. We see people from all over. We'll do consultations for people. We won't steal your patients. If you have someone that you think needs an internal assessment or a little extra look, we're happy to consult. And we do online consulting as well. So even people that aren't here can do that. It's not treatment, but it's so we can Skype and talk.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm interested in the online consultation. Is that something, because you can't obviously be treating them virtually, but you could give them exercise, you could look at things.
Even just, and I don't even, so prescribing exercises, it's a fine line to walk, right? So it's not treatment. Because then we run into all the licensing across borders and things like that. But if people have questions about pain, or they just want to talk about, here's my program, does that make sense to you? What kind of questions should I ask my therapist? Or therapists that are like, okay, I got all this stuff, and they don't want to sign up for the mentoring program, but they just want to talk. We have just a consulting time. So you're paying for our time. It doesn't come with any receipts to send to insurance companies or any CPT codes or diagnostic codes. It's just, our time is valuable. And if you would like 15-minute blocks of it, you can sign up on the online and
do you have a lot of people that take you up on that?
Yeah, actually, it's pretty cool because it can happen anytime. So I love it because it's like we can come up with a mutually beneficial 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and I can be any place quiet enough and discreet enough to have a conversation.
So I think this is actually quite helpful for our listeners, because they might have other areas of their, expertise or industry. So if it's okay with you, I want to unpack this a little bit. So let's say I want to schedule a 15-minute conversation with you. If you don't mind taking me through, do I go to your website? Then what kind of scheduling service do you use? So what's the whole path?
This is another example of how Sandy and Sarah just do it our way. It makes sense to us.
And it makes sense for you. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're wrong.
Right. So the process at the moment works like you go to the website, it's under consulting, and it just takes you to a page on the website where you can say who you want to talk to, whether it's Sarah or myself, and for how long, and it's in 15-minute blocks. And you literally pay for it then. Like you'd reserve 30 minutes with me, and then I will get a notice that has your contact information and your name and how much time you're wanting. You get to fill in what format, whether you wanted it to be a phone call or Skype or Zoom, or in person if you're scheduling to come by. I suppose you could do that too. And then I contact you and we figure out what works best for us.
Okay.
I typically contact via email because that can be done again at any time. I just hope people never notice if I'm doing that at 5:30 in the morning or 9 o'clock at night. The life of a business owner. And then we just set it up as a mutually beneficial time.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, see, I'm interested in the little, details that go into like broader ideas, such as like a consultation, because I think that, and then we could even talk about how you set up your website in order to handle consultations, like do you and Sarah run your own, or do you outsource?
I will defer to Sarah. Remember when I said that there's things that I could do, but it would take me like so much longer, and some people love it? That would be Sarah loves it, or at least did. I hope she still does. and she is currently handling the website. And while I have the keys to it, it's like you can be anti-helpful if you go try and help, and then the other person has to spend 20 minutes undoing what you did because you put it in the wrong place. So yeah, that's Sarah's baby. And and she takes care of it.
Well, she does a great job. Your website looks awesome and, informative, easy to use. I know when I was interested in signing up for Ben's course, super easy. Just go to the website, pick the course that I wanted to take.
Yes.
Again, because we have our own, our own setup for our website that we like, and we want to make it as easy as possible, but we don't want to just be like, sign up for our courses, blah, and just
Right.
we want to, create this like website where people actually like coming to, looking up new things. We want
Yeah, and that works. So, and that's the other reason why I try not to, I'm not being lazy. It's that if I go in there and try and say, well, this makes sense, but Sarah's the one doing the work and it doesn't make sense to her. It's like when you go in your kitchen and you put something away in the wrong spot, it is legitimately put away, but that's not where someone's going to find it.
correct.
So she's tweaking it all the time. You should get her on. She's tweaking it all the time so that it logically makes sense.
Yeah.
So that it can be used most efficiently in the best way that the technology has to offer at the moment.
And I think
work in progress.
One really nice feature about your website is that, like, as a consumer going to your site, it pretty much showed me exactly where I needed to go in order to become, or in order to like make a transaction.
Yay.
So you had to think about it from my perspective as a consumer. And I'm guilty of our clinic website and also our education website of thinking about what I want it to look like.
And I'll give due credit where it's due. Ryan Smith, he's a PT out on the East Coast.
Okay.
He was a student here with Sarah as a business internship. And Ryan and Sarah, well, Ryan worked really hard to put the website together and did a presentation for us. And he taught Sarah the back doors to it all, and she's taken it and moved it. But Ryan built a lot of that initial setup based on what we had told him we wanted.
Very cool. Well, this is great. You're right. We will have to get Sarah on and just talk.
Yeah. Oh, she's brilliant. And she's one of the best people I know at making complex things simple, like not wasting time. So you still have time to go do other things that you might have fun with, but they still work. So I'm lucky having her as a business partner because I'm a little more of a hot mess.
Oh, I'm right there with you. And I was just reading a book that was talking about leveraging your time. And it sounds like you guys have a really nice, partnership where, one strength moves, the needle in the right.
We try. I feel like I got to go do QuickBooks so that I can, it's a constant thing. And it is something you have to keep working at. Because if I don't do my part, she can't do her part. And that's not fair.
Sure. And so you guys are 50-50 partners?
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, this has been great. We will definitely get Sarah on for part B of the Entropy, podcast here.
Cool. I'm gonna give you some clues then. She is one of the smartest people I know about talking with patients and helping them navigate. She calls it her choose your own adventure kind of thing. Okay. She does a gorgeous job of taking scared people and helping to make them self-efficacy building choices, and making those like scary things about incontinence and pain not so scary anymore.
Very cool.
And that's a skill.
That is absolutely a skill, because yes, I appreciate the heads up. We will get her on. We'll talk a little bit of business, and we'll talk a little bit of that clinical skill that she's got with making patients comfortable. But just in closing here, Sandy, do you have a book, a podcast, do you have a resource that we can continue to learn from you, or that you would recommend? I know it's kind of a vague question, but just tell us we can learn more.
Yes, I have a book. I co-authored Why Pelvic Pain Hurts with Adrienne Lowe and Carolyn Van Dyken. And I have a podcast with Corey Flickenstaff, Pain Science and Sensibility. It's where you get to hear Corey and I talk about all things pain and the application to the clinic. And resources, probably Twitter. I use it to curate what books to read and what papers are good. So there's a list I have on Twitter called Pain and Science, which is people who consistently put out really good recommendations for books or papers. That's my go-to of where I go and learn things. My little Twitter. when I don't want to look at the big world. I got a couple works in progress of a couple more things that are coming out, and Sarah and I have 2 courses that'll be out soon on Embodia, on treating pelvic pain and men's health. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, again, thank you for taking time out and joining us today. We'll make sure we include links to all of those resources in the show notes, and we'll blast it on social media and via email. So we'll send that over to you when we're done, and you can share that on your Twitter.
Oh, with happy.
That'll
And
be
even stick it on Instagram.
Yeah, yes, even on Instagram. Oh, I'll send it to Ryan or to Johnny to put on our Instagram, because I deleted that app a long time ago. But yeah, again, I can't thank you enough for coming on and just giving us a little glimpse into how Entropy started, and just kind of like the day-to-day operations. I hope it was okay that I asked, logistical questions.
Oh no, it's fine. Yeah.
Not to pry, but I think that, like I said, people will find value in what works for you and how it works, and so I really appreciate you.
And it continues to evolve. So every time someone finds a new way to do it, we all learn. And you try something and it doesn't work, and it's in those failures that you figure out something that works better. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Awesome. Well, again, Sandy, thank you so much for coming on.
And thanks for having me. It was fun.
Sarah, and we'll have you again on down the road for sure.
Okay.
Again, appreciate you taking your time out, and thanks again.